Thank you for joining us in this webinar, Strengthening the Role of Indigenous Youth in Forest Protection, Perspectives from Latin America. My name is Miroslava Lunovska Figueroa, and I will be your moderator today. I'm a researcher at Space for Innovation, where our goal is to develop solutions for technology. We are happy to collaborate with Global Forest Watch and Indigenous Alliance for this webinar. Before we start, this is going to be happening in Spanish with interpretation into English. You can select your language in the lower bar.
Before we get started, this webinar will be hosted in Spanish with simultaneous interpretation to English. You can choose which language you would prefer to listen to today's webinar by selecting the globe icon in the navigation bar. I will give everyone a moment to select the interpretation feature if they would like to hear today's webinar in English. Bueno, antes de nada, les hago un atento recordatorio a la audiencia de apagar sus cámaras y cerrar sus micrófonos. Solamente las personas que serían nuestros
ask our audience to turn off your cameras and your microphones. We will answer questions through the question function in the lower part of the Zoom bar. We will have some time at the end to answer your questions, and you can start asking them now. The webinar is being recorded right now, and we will send a recording to every people who registered to the webinar in around a week. Having said that, I will now introduce our speakers. Our next slide, please. First, I will present our two speakers from Global Forest Watch and Geo Indigenous Alliance. Ruth Nogaran is a senior associate in the forest program at the WRI, World Resources Institute. Ruth splits her time between Global Forest Watch and the Forest Governance team. Mario Vargas Chacim is a founding member of the Geo Indigenous Alliance and is the indigenous focal point. He is a Shuar Equatorian nationality. And as I said before, my name is Miroslava. You can call me Miros, and I will be your moderator at this webinar. Our next slide, please. Now I will introduce our wonderful panel of young women from Latin America and the Caribbean. We start with Samaigua Lingua, the Vice President of the Quechua Sarayuco Native people in Ecuador, and she works to defend her territory, including forest preservation and its peoples. Karina Chumpe is a Shuar nationality, and she lives in the Ecuadorian Amazon. Roxy Williams is a regional coordinator for the North Central America and the Caribbean region of the Space Generation Advisory Council. Finally, Mireya Gualinga is a technical monitor at the Quechua Sarayuco Native people. You will hear more from them in their introductions. Our next slide, please. Now we have a brief overview of our agenda today. We will have some opening remarks, as I said before, followed by the speaker introductions, and then we will have a moderated discussion. We will have time for some questions at the end, and we will wrap up our webinar with ideas of how to support the community and how to keep having these conversations. Now, I would like to leave the floor to Mario, who will give us opening remarks from the Geo Indigenous Alliance. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mario Vargas. I'm from Ecuador. I'm a co-founder of the Geo Indigenous Alliance and coordinator of the Technical Administrative Unit of COFINAI. I want to mention that the Geo Alliance was created in 2019 in the Canberra Ministerial Summit, And the mission of our alliance is to protect and preserve indigenous knowledge through the use of science, data, and uh, Earth observation technology to create a knowledge base to underpin the defense and preservation of the planet and its territories. I want to mention that the alliance is made up by representatives from the US, um, James um, Titus in South Africa, and the Samburu people, and our council, Diana Mastracci, in Europe. Our main counselor is Crichton in Australia. I want to say that in 2000 and 2001, we trained Shuar youth. We created a group of monitors, and from Quaker, we trained 10 regional monitors who are a part of a company, and they have been working throughout company, which is comprised of over 20 communities. They've been trained on the use of cartographic data, and this has been a unique experience for us in our country. Next one, please. Thank you. Thank you, and I am here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you, Mario, for your questions. And now I will give the floor to Ruth to tell us about Global Forest Watch and their collaboration with Geo Indigenous Alliance. Good morning, Miros. Thank you, and thanks to all of our panel members and participants of this webinar. Next one, please. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ruth Nogueron, and I will tell you about Global Forest Watch. This is an initiative from the World Resources Institute, and our mission is to increase transparency and information on forest monitoring to improve decision-making processes to lead to better preservation and sustainable management of forests. We have a global platform where we present information from different forest monitoring systems in different formats. The Global Forest Watch platform, you're seeing a screenshot of it, and we have a mobile application called Forest Watcher. This application allows users to download monitoring alerts to their mobile device and bring it to the field to verify and collect information. We have worked with different stakeholders in the private sector and government, but also with indigenous communities. These are pictures from Peru, where indigenous communities, with the help of local civil society organizations, are using Global Forest Watch data to protect their forests. Actually, in a study by Columbia University, which was published last year, showed that deforestation decreased by 50% in the territories of communities which are using our Global Forest Watch data to monitor the territories. We are very excited about this collaboration with Geo Indigenous Alliance in this series of webinars, which seeks to close the gap between the geospatial community and indigenous peoples. We seek to share experiences of indigenous peoples with monitoring and the use of these tools to manage their forest. And this series of webinars intends to provide a space for dialogue about the challenges they face, exchange lessons learned, analyze the role of traditional indigenous knowledge interfaced with modern technology, and address barriers associated with access to technology, and showing how to use Global Forest Watch as well as other data, tools, and global and forest monitoring tools. We are actually in Iquitos uh, in an exchange where we're sharing monitoring experiences between three communities. Thank you and welcome once again. Thank you, Ruth, for the introduction to Global Forest Watch and ways to participate in the future. Now I will give the floor to our speakers so they can share a little bit about their work. Every speaker will have 5 to 7 minutes to present, and first we will hear from Samay Walinga. Sarayuko lives in harmony with nature. For the earth, for the water, for the forest, protecting the territory is part of our philosophy.
Eh, bueno, buenos días.
Hello, good morning.
Les saludo desde Sariaco. Soy Sama Igualinga.
Greetings from Sarayuco. My name is Samay Gualingua, Vice President of the Quechua Sarayuco Indigenous people. I represent my people, and we've been working with Sarayuco. My area is communication. I've worked with Sarayuco for over 10 years in this regard. And 4 months ago, I was chosen as vice president, and I'm working with the government council supporting my people. I've worked in communication, helping with social network, videos, publicity. We have also worked with materials to make maps to monitor the territory. And in Sayaco, we've also been learning how to use technology and what it helps us and what are the barriers we have to prove that Sariaco exists. Sariaco is in the Pastaza province in Ecuador. We are a people with 135,000 virgin forest hectares, and we're defending our territory from extractivism and appropriation of biodiversity in our territory. We have been working for several years in preserving our land so our people may preserve the harmony of nature, which we call causa sacha, which is our connection with our living heroes and nature, which are forests, lagoons, mountains, trees. And we've been working to prove that we exist. We have used geospatial technology such as Global Forest Watch to prove that we are here, that there is nature, that there's no deforestation, so we can keep living in harmony with our nature. It has been a great challenge to show the world everything we've worked on and how we're working to preserve our sumac housing, which can be translated into good living with our plants. We have always worked to prove that as a people we're always fighting to preserve our territory and also help climate change, which has been very drastic over the last few years, which has also impacted our communities and the consequences of which we are suffering. The hardest part is showing the world that we as people can work and monitor our territories with our own tools and also using technology, which facilitates this for us. This is a brief introduction from me. We can keep talking afterwards, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this event. And I'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Thank you so much, Samai, for sharing. And now we will hear from Karina Chumpi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Chumpi from Ecuador, from the Shuar nationality. I am currently a regional monitor at Confeniae. Confeniae was founded in 1980 with the goal to uniting indigenous communities to defend our rights and promote the development of its members. Confeniae is made up by 11 nationalities, 23 organizations, 1,500 communities, and around 250,000 inhabitants over 6 provinces. Next one, please. Initially, I was trained in the use of technology tools like drone, GPS, ArcGIS, ODK, and TRK. Throughout this training process, I realized that it is very important to have knowledge in these technology areas because they have a relation and they can be applied in our territories. After this training, which took place over a month, I had the opportunity to become a regional environmental monitor in Confeniae to do field territory work in different nationalities and communities. As we can see, a field work such as georeferencing community for the legalization of their territories in the Santa Clara communities, verifying territory limits for the creation of a parish in their nationality.
En la provincia de Morona, Santiago,
in the Morona Santiago province, we verified limits, the limits of communities, as just as we did in the province of Pastaza. We verified the limits between 2 communities because they had controversy on their limits. This controversy was solved between the communities in the Shuar nationality organization. In Sucumbíos and Orellana, we surveyed and gathered information about pollution because of an oil spill. And in the Napo province, we got information about illegal mining, which affected the river in this province. In the Zamora Chinchipe province, we did work to verify mining exploitation, and we georeferenced the limits of the Zamora Chinchipe Shuar community. During this work, which I've been doing across different nationalities, I've seen their realities, like the way they live, culture, traditions, and different territorial limit controversies they've had in the past. My greatest challenge as a woman has been positioning myself in my field work, because as a Shuar woman, people have thought that I'm not trained to do this work in remote territories, because in order to reach places where there are controversies, to check limits, or to identify polluted areas, sometimes you have to work and walk in the middle of the night or for over 24 hours, and these are very remote locations. So this has been my challenge, doing this work on the field as a Shuar woman. However, this has also allowed me to see how different territories live in the Amazon region. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for having allowed me to share my experience as a Shuar woman, as a monitor in the Amazon region. Thank you, Karina, for sharing. Now we will hear from Roxy Williams.
Nagsaditan yam ni Al Sudra, yang Roxy Williams, and yang Bilui Costa Caribe Wina. Hola a todos, soy Roxy Williams.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roxy Williams. I come from the Nicaraguan Caribbean coast. We can see some pictures of some of the activities I've participated in. Next one, please. Before I go on with my presentation, I'd like to talk to you about some figures. In 2021, 49.6% of the world population was women, according to the UN. And even if almost half of the world's population is made up by women, we are still a minority in several industries. Some of the industries we are a minority in is technology, engineering, science, and finance industries. These are only a few examples, but now considering women make up half of a population and we are still a minority, you can imagine as indigenous women how we are a minority in these industries and how our voice is not heard many times. The next two slides, please. Previous two slides, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work I've done in the space sector. I am the regional coordinator of the North America, Central America, and the Caribbean region. I've led design of key subsystems in the Mercury sample return mission. I also led the design of CubeSat in collaboration with the Space Research Institute in Brazil to collect information or images of floods in the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. I also contributed to several projects from my background as a software engineer, and one that is very close to my heart and I appreciate a lot because it wasn't work that I wanted to do since I was little, but it was a problem that I wanted to help solve or at least create resiliency in my community specifically, which was along with a colleague identify safe refugees in the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua and Central America. This is because when I was around 7 or maybe younger, I lived through several hurricanes in this coast. And now with climate change, hurricanes are more powerful. There are more hurricanes every year. And this makes communities more vulnerable every year. The goal of this project was to identify all the areas where communities could find a refuge or where we could build refuges or shelters for this population. In 2020, there were 2 hurricanes on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, one after the other, just a week after, and a community called Halover in the coast was inundated, entirely flooded. And this type of applications help for these purposes.
Okay. Esta situación que estoy mencionando es una de las
This
cosas
situation that I'm talking to you about inspired me a lot to protect forests and also to create resiliency for the population. Best practice I've learned in my work is to always raise our voice, the importance of keep talking about the problems that we experience. 1 or 2 days ago, our organizer Isabella shared a link where one of our panel members shared a phrase that I loved, which is a reality for a lot of us in the indigenous communities, which was that a lot of times we are represented, but we do not represent. I think I can relate to this phrase, and a challenge associated with this was having the capability of sharing the problems facing my community with language. In this case, my native language is Miskito, so I had to learn Spanish to communicate this, to look for support in organizations, and also learning English to create contacts in the rest of the world and keep working. Both of these have helped me to share this knowledge, and I'd also like to mention 4 things. Sorry, Roxy, we are short on time, and now we will hear from Mireya Walinga.
Mireya, aló, aló.
Okay. Muy buenos días con todos. ¿Me escuchan? Sí.
Sí.
Good morning,
Sí.
everyone. Can you hear me? First of all, I would like to thank WRI and Indigenous Alliance to let you know, everyone listening to us internationally, about the works that we do in the indigenous populations. My name is Mireya Walinga. I'm from the regional population of Guarayacu, located in the central south of the Amazonia in Ecuador. I form part of the council in Guarayacu. I work in monitoring, conservation, traditional agriculture, and uses of the Guarayacu population. Next. I just wanted to make a summary of the activities that women of Sarayaku population do. We are the main pillar defending nature. We are protectors of the environment, land, and families. We are women transferring knowledge. We preserve culture, production media, and organization of our population in Sarayaku. Relationship between Indigenous people or Sarayaku women and the territory is based on respecting life, taking care of life, and feeding life. So life is helping us to have a better life for future generations. Next. Sarayakus and zoning. This is a map. Yes, this is exactly what I want to see. This is having an own governance within territories. Our map is well zonified, and we have families where we have families and humans zone. This is where families is doing agriculture and biodiversity activities, and everything in green is about conservation of territories. Those are conservation areas within our territory. Next, please. Talking about traditional agriculture in Sarayaku, this is formed by 7 communities. Here, what I do is that we monitor the territory to protect and do surveillance of this traditional agriculture in those communities. Next. Chakra monitoring or first crop agriculture, we have measured products and then we verify and count in order to get products of the area. We don't want them to disappear, and we want those products to prevail, products of the indigenous people. So in the future, we are able to share with other women, with other organizations and other indigenous populations in order to keep balance between nature and products. Next. Next. Monitoring is made in the post-cropping. We measure products after the first crop in order to measure trees that benefit us, like medicinal trees and palms, in order to implement a study field in order to strengthen our population. Thanks to these global forest watch apps, we measure and we check the territory in order to not having non-grata persons in our territory, and this is an app that is helping us to surveil.
Perdón, Mireya, un minuto.
And we have just 1 minute, Mireya, sorry. Thank you. So then we monitor in Sarayaku in order to surveil our territory with the apps, and this is benefiting youngsters in our territory for making territory prevail, because this is a source of life very important for the coming generations, and also to protect our territory and the impact that we have. Thanks to industries that today are destroying
Muchas gracias.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Mireya, y a nuestros panelistas por sus
Thank you,
presentaciones. Perdón.
Mireya, and the rest of the panelists, and I'm sorry to be pushing you. And it was amazing to learn about you and your projects. And now we will have a panel discussion, and I will make some questions to learn more about your experiences. We will have 3 rounds. Each one of them will be 15 minutes long, and each of our panelists will have 3 or 4 minutes to answer, and we will start with the first round. Samai, are you able to turn on your camera, please? As the Quichua Sarayuku's vice president, how do you leader change regarding the defense and protecting your home? What is the proposal of Causa Chacak in this work?
Bueno, en Sariaco, nosotros
Here in Sarayaku,
estatutos,
we
nombramientos
have
y reglamentos que están elaborados
regulations and norms
ya
that
desde que
are
inició la organización
made
Sariaco.
since the Sarayaku organization started.
Aplico
And as a vice president, I do apply
estatutos y también hago aplicar a la
those norms
población,
and regulations,
socializando,
and we
difundiendo,
socialize and
en
spread the
nuestras
word,
asambleas,
and
en
we
nuestros congresos.
participate in assemblies and congresses.
También nosotros, bueno, mi rol es apoyar
Also, my role
programas y
is to
proyectos del
support
Plan de Desarrollo
programs
Sariaco,
of the
estar al tanto
Sarayaku
de la historia
Life Plan,
de los abuelos,
to
de las
hear
abuelas, de qué es lo que ellos
grandmothers,
también tienen que
grandfathers,
aportar y qué es lo
what they have
conocimiento que
to
nosotros
give,
necesitamos para poder
which is the knowledge that we
implementar
need
estos
in order
planes.
to implement
Y comparto
things among youngsters, and also to share my studies, because I study communications and I want to apply everything in the everyday life and within the community.
También es muy importante
And also,
reforzar
it's very
el
important to
trabajo de
reinforce
Sariaco
what
para mí
Sarayaku
es poder
works
reforzarlo
with.
día a
For me,
día
it's very
con
important to
trabajos y
reinforce
capacitación
everyday work,
dentro de
norms and
la
regulations
comunidad,
within my
pero también
community.
mi rol
But
fundamental
also, my
es
main role
difundir
is
a
to
nivel
spread the word
internacional, nacional, el trabajo
in
que
the
Sariaco
international and
hace
national
poder
level what
proteger
Sarayaku is doing in
nuestro
order to protect their
difundirlo,
land,
hacer entender
to make
al mundo
the world
internacional cuál es la
understand
importancia de la vida
what's
dentro
the
de la
importance
comunidad,
of life
por qué
within the
Sariaco
community,
trabaja, por qué
why
Sariaco está
Sarayaku is working,
manteniendo su
why
territorio,
Sarayaku
por qué
is
Sariaco
keeping
tiene
their
que
land alive,
luchar para
why
poder
we have to
seguir
fight in
existiendo.
order
Ese
to
es uno de los
continue
roles fundamentales que yo
existent.
tengo que
This
realizar
is one
dentro de
of
mi
our
comunidad, que
main
también es
roles,
nuevo para
my
mí,
role in
no
my
puedo negar,
community, which is
dentro
new because this is
de
my new
toda mi
position.
vida en la
I
carrera ha
was
sido uno de mis sueños poder
within
realizar
communications all the time,
este
and it
trabajo
has
de
been one of my
comunicación
dreams to
de
carry
Sariaco,
out this
pero también es
communications work in
importante
Sarayaku, but
exige
also
que apoyemos de
the
diferentes formas.
population
Entonces, por el momento estoy
demands support in
políticamente
different
dentro
ways.
del
So we
Consejo de
want
Gobierno,
to
apoyando
support
también todo este
politically in the
mensaje que
council
Sariaco
and to give
nos
support to
comparte.
this
Muchas
message
gracias.
and spread the word to the whole
Vamos,
world.
Karina.
Thank you very much.
Usted
And now we go with
recordar
Karina.
servicio de
You are the first
participación
Shuar
información
women
cartográfica.
with
Contarnos
cartographic
cuáles son los
knowledge.
datos
Are you able to talk
que nos
about the role of
proporciona
data and
Geoingeniería
technology
los bosques.
in monitoring and defending forests?
Bueno, el uso de datos y la
That
tecnología es muy
data
importante en
usage
apoyo
and
al
technology is
desarrollo
very
y el avance
important
de los bosques
when
inteligentes.
defending
Los datos
forests.
cartográficos,
Cartographic
por
data,
ejemplo, proporcionan
for
información
example,
sobre
is giving
paisajes,
out detailed information
deforestación,
regarding location,
de
forest
territorios de diferentes
extension,
nacionalidades
lands of different
y
nationalities,
características, lo
and
cual es
their
muy
own
esencial
features,
para
which is
identificar
a
áreas de
core
riesgo
to
y prevenir la
identify
cobertura
risks
forestal.
and
Además,
changes in the
la
forest.
tecnología desempeña un
Besides,
papel
technology
clave
is
para,
key
al permitir la recopilación
for
y análisis
gathering
de datos de
information
forma más
and
rápida
analyzing
y eficaz.
data
Por
in a
ejemplo,
more efficient and
datos
effective way.
recopilados en los
For
archivos de
example,
diferentes
data
nacionalidades
gathered
de
from
las regiones de
different
la Amazonía
nationalities and organizations in the
han
Amazonian.
sido obtenidas con las
And this
herramientas
data
como
has
son
been obtained
GPS y
with
drones,
tools like GPS, drones,
Genética, el aplicativo ODK,
EDTK, ODK,
esta información
and all this
recopilada
information that has been
son
gathered
procesados y almacenados
are processed and managed and the use of this technological data has helped to monitor forests and to watch out for illegal deforestation and possible threats. And in the same way, we use seek geographical information to map, view data that are gathered, and that it is making easier the decision making based on evidence. As a summary, data and technology are very valuable tools allowing our communities and different nationalities and our defenders to have a complete view and have more effective decisions to defend the Ecuadorian Amazonian. Thank you very much, Karina. I have a question for Mireya. As a technical expert, are you able to say how youngsters are able to use data and monitoring systems for protected land?
¿Me escuchan?
Sí.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Ya.
¿Quiere que se la
Es muy
repita?
importante.
It's very important.
Sí, por favor.
Yes, can you repeat that, please?
Como experta técnica,
As a technical
¿puede decirnos
expert,
cómo las
can you please let us
jóvenes
know how
adultos
youngsters
y los
are
sistemas de
able to
forest
use
para
data
proteger
and
estos
monitoring
bosques?
systems for protecting systems and forest?
Es muy importante en la actualidad
It's
que los
very
jóvenes
important today that indigenous youngsters,
específicamente
specifically when talking about monitoring,
manejen aplicaciones
they manage
benefician
applications that are benefiting us for measuring our land and preserving land. It's very important also to know about technologies for monitor and surveil forests and also to have more knowledge and helping our population regarding protecting the environment and also to avoid any activities that are not legal and also to monitor spiritual value trees in Sarayaku. We have been using and practicing as guardians of the forest, and we want to strengthen our knowledge in order to have our own technology in our own territory with our own youngsters. Those are apps very useful and help us to protect our land, our jungle, to preserve the land. So it's important for today's youngster to learn even beyond what we are able to do with these apps. Today, youngsters, we are trained since very little. We started to be trained and to manage these apps and these programs that are giving benefits and to monitor agriculture, sacred trees, also lakes, lagoons, big mountains that are giving a common benefit to the community and also to preserve them all together. So these apps from Global Forest Watch is giving benefit, but we also need some training to understand and to understand much better about functionalities of these apps. So in Sarayaku, this is giving a lot of benefit and they are very helpful because it is allowing us to have alerts from the base, from the center of Sarayaku. So this is it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mireya. And now let's go with Roxy. As president and founder of Black Panthers, can you please talk about empowering groups that are not represented in the space area, like Afro-descendant indigenous groups and others? Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for the question. As president and founder of Black Panther, I would like to talk about the role that we have for diversity and inclusion. We know some communities, for example, I feel represented. Afro-descendant refugees in a Petres have found some difficulties for raising their voice and be represented in this spatial area. And I have seen that, and we have seen different topics in the community, and we have tried to solve this with aerospatial technology on geospatial technology. My organization is trying to participate. We are starting and we want to change or change this reality. We are trying to start with some projects that we were talking about before and be more inclusive with where all voices are listened. I remember when we were working in this project, it was born from a hackathon. And I was working in that with that issue before. However, we started to use existing data, and then it came out from a hackathon from indigenous communities organized by Geo Indigenous Alliance, actually. And we believe in the importance of building bridges and taking out obstacles from long time. Historically, we've been underrepresented communities and we want to change that reality. We want to show capabilities we have by using our traditional knowledge. And we want to do that through not only projects like this and developing solutions, but also mentoring, education, awareness, and be and inspire future generation to dream big and to not let any obstacle stop us from reaching the sky. And last, that scope that we have, that the space is, or maybe the indigenous community should be in this industry, the space industry. So we have to change that. We are very committed on protecting our communities and our people. And we will do that by working, and we want to do it for the future. Thank you very much, Roxy. So now we will start with the second round of questions. Please, just a reminder, we will have 2 minutes more or less, just to be aware of. Karina, you will be the first one. Can you please talk about ancestral rights and territory rights about the communities in the indigenous Amazonian populations when defending forests? Yes. Ancestral rights and territory of the indigenous communities in the Amazonian are essential when monitoring and defending forests. Communities have lived in harmony with the Amazonian during generations, and we have a deep knowledge of ecosystems and resources of the region. Ancestral rights are giving us the right of the special relationship with our territories and are giving us the right to protect and manage our territories because we have own regulations and norms. This means that we have the control under the use of natural resources and we are able to make decisions about preservation and sustainable development of our lands. The fight for defending our land is not only have a local impact, but also contributes to global conservation and biodiversity and helps mitigating climate change and preserve the lungs of the planet. Indigenous Amazonian communities have played an essential role. It's very active when defending our forests. Many communities are guardians of Mother Nature and have been fighting decades against deforestation, exploitations of natural resources, and other threats. And as a conclusion, ancestral and territorial rights of indigenous communities are an essential role for a regional monitoring and defending forests by giving knowledge, to have an active participation for environment management before external threats that we have in the territories.
Muchísimas gracias,
Thank you very much,
Karina.
Karina.
Roxy,
Now we go with Roxy.
ha desarrollado clases para los estudiantes
You have
indígenas para
developed
que aprendan ingeniería espacial. ¿Puedes ilustrar
classes for
y el uso de
Indigenous
datos y
youngster for aerospatial technology. Can you talk about this a little bit more? Yes. The first program we developed together with another colleague was around 2020, I think. Initially, this was an introduction of aerospace engineering and how small satellites work, and to use different communities' issues in order to give solutions by using this technology. Last year, together with others in the Caribbean island, we have an intensive 8 weeks training in order to develop a whole prototype of a mission based in CubeSat. We motivate not only indigenous community from specifically from Nicaragua to get involved in this contest, and this was a contest, but we invited Afro descendants to get involved, and we are very happy not only to develop knowledge itself, but also because the communities and youngsters are able to see the big scope of this industry and different things we are able to achieve, because as I said before, this is not well understood. And they say it is only about rockets and astronauts, but it's having a lot of applications, and we are giving a lot of examples about these applications in our land and how we are able to use it. So people with zero tech knowledge from space technology, during the contest, they learned a lot to develop projects, not only about the technology, but how to apply this with different issues. Thank you very much, Roxy. Samai,
¿Nos podrías contar más sobre
can you please let us know more about your work with youngsters in Sarajuku, including best practices to involve sustainable participation in youngsters and also to work together with elder people and teach youngsters?
Bueno, como he venido trabajando durante
I have been working
3 años
for almost 3
con la
years
juventud de Sariaco
with
y
Sarayaku's
recientemente tuvimos un
youngsters.
intercambio con Perú.
Recently, we had an interchange with Peru,
Perú, Cayali.
with the Cayali and Sarayaku's youngsters.
Los jóvenes ha sido muy importante para
And
ellos poder
for
conocer
me,
otras culturas,
youngsters are very
formas de
important in
vida
order to
y
know
otras
other
tradiciones
ways of life, other fights we have
Sarayaku.
outside
Hemos
Sarayaku.
trabajado con los jóvenes
We
y
have worked with them
módulos donde ellos aprenden
in modules where they are able to learn
solo organizativo dentro de Sariaco y también cómo son los derechos
the organization in Sarayaku and the rights for protecting nature,
leyes que existen
and also rights and regulations in Ecuador
para que ellos
and
también tengan
the
conocimientos y
OTI.
sepan por qué
So
y
they
cómo
are
nos defendemos
aware
con
and they
derechos
know how
protegidos.
we are having rights in order to
Dentro de eso
protect our
también ha
land.
habido el trabajo en conjunto con
Also,
los
we have
alumnos
jointly worked with elder
más que
people,
todo es los jóvenes tienen que investigar, aprender
and
y preguntar
youngsters have
cómo
to learn,
ha sido el
research, and
trabajo
ask
y cómo es el
how
trabajo
this work has been
cómo era en el
and how
anteriormente y cómo es
it
ahora.
was before and how it is right now in the present. How to join this knowledge from our elders and continue working with youngsters. We have been working with Sarayaku's young people so they are able to increase their knowledge regarding education, because it's very difficult within communities and indigenous communities to have a good education because it's very low. They don't learn English, they don't learn other languages, they are only learning basics. We have Spanish, and it is not very reinforced. We are only talking about our own language, which is being practiced, and it's the core for Sarayaku people. So we have been working jointly with other youngsters that are really interested on trying to form groups of youngsters that are able to learn how to continue defending their lands and to socialize with other communities that are not having this opportunity, so they are able to learn in this organizational level how to defend territories. Thank you very much, Samai. Let's go with Mireya. What's the role of the traditional knowledge when protecting forests and land and the agriculture practices, and how do we combine this knowledge with the data usage? We have been fighting and resisting against a globalization. We have been practicing the cosmovision of my population in order to protect us. For Sarayaku, trees, mountains are alive and they are similar to us. With this ideology, women are protectors of food and agriculture, and we are connected with them and we are related to them, and this is essential for us. This is very important to use data to identify global warming and how this is affecting indigenous population and also agriculture, and also to identify pesticides in our products and the change of land. So we do this. We do this combination of knowledge with that data usage in order to monitor agriculture in our land within Sarayaku in order to preserve everything that is giving benefits. This is the common benefits with humans and nature. So with this knowledge, indigenous women regarding agriculture are connected to land. This is something that is managed between women and land. So they are coming together to grow good products. They sing to nature. They know about spirituality, which is the combination of products. So we are able to have a good harvest or a good crop with these components, which is crop and also knowledge that women are transferring to youngsters within Sarayaku, meaning singing, the transfer of energy in order to have a good harvest. So this is a combination that is made to monitor the land in Sarayaku and monitor our products that are having really good quality. If trees are healthy and if they are helping with global warming, also women are connected to land, as we mentioned before, and this is a fair combination made to monitor the status of the jungle and land and the correlation that we have with technologies and natural resources. So then this is something that is helping us, and this is strengthening us to have our own knowledge of our own land. Thank you very much.
Vamos a cerrar esta parte del webinar y vamos a empezar la tercera y última ronda, la cual consiste en una pregunta final que va a ser la misma para todas las panelistas.
We will start with our next question and will be the final question. What kind of support youngsters need to be an agent of change, and are some of the obstacles we may have to keep involved youngsters for protecting lands?
Roxy, quizás.
Maybe Roxy would like to start. Of course. From my perspective, I believe that support that youngsters need, and from my experience, I could say this, is a lot of knowledge on technologies. Now, why do I say this? Because in the past, I had the opportunity to keep learning, and now I'm sharing this knowledge with my communities. But in history, we've always seen that we as communities have been the people who learn. Some people have helped us with things like scientists and engineers, but people come to our community, they do whatever project they want to solve the problems, but they don't leave knowledge with us. So how can we keep it up and implement it? So this is what I always promote as a young woman and as an Indigenous woman, to keep knowledge in the communities. And also, how can we keep youth attracted to this knowledge? Living through the problems and the things that we see in our communities motivates us to keep learning. I know that a lot of times, as I've had the experience with other communities, I know some communities don't agree with using technology to work with the community. But I think these are tools that we can help to address these issues, to address these problems that there was no way of solving in the past, or that we solved with our knowledge, but we can now use these new technologies to motivate the youth and also know what our problem is, but also provide solutions. Mireya, would you like to participate from your experience? Of course. In the Sarayaku people, in terms of preserving forests, the youth has been involved since the time we're born. We have the idea of preserving our territory. So about the use of data, we started recently as youth in the Sarayaku people. This has helped us a lot, but we need to strengthen a little bit more with training on the use of applications to monitor the territory and the forest. We also do maps with zoning of our territories with all of our natural resources. So it's very important for the youth, especially for women, to have these trainings to strengthen and self-determine in our people. The Sarayaku people has been involved in fighting and defending the territory. We have also represented internationally on climate change panels. And as protectors of human rights and nature, we also need this strengthening and this knowledge to use these apps to protect our territory. The youth is now aware of the need to protect the forest because it is a source of resources for humanity. Thank you very much, Mireya. Samai, what could you tell us about this from your standpoint? As I said before,
Comunidades y de los pueblos hay
in our
una
communities,
fuerte en lo que es la educación básica
there's
superior.
a big problem with basic and higher education. And this is one of the main goals we should have in our communities and in all Indigenous people. We need to improve education. We always have education imposed by our governments, without our traditional knowledge. We talk about bilingual education in our country, but it's not really applied. So one of the most important things for this is apply our own education and develop it. Our education system is imposed by the government, and the people cannot apply our own knowledge. We also need to train the youth in the use of new technologies. As I explained with the exchange, I think it's important for communities to have their youth exchange with other communities, not only in other countries, but within Ecuador, there's a lot of peoples and nationalities which may exchange practices, see what their problems and causes and fights are, because the youth sometimes is sort of locked within their communities and they don't know that there are other peoples who may have bigger struggles like extractivism or logging or monocultures. So it's very important for youth to have the opportunity to get to know other peoples. Indigenous peoples protect our territories, but we're always imposed development projects, which is false development. These projects are not applied to our life plans or the way we live. So it's important to know that every people has a way of living and a way of protecting our territory. So it's important for all organizations or for help we get in communities to respect the development of the community itself. Sometimes when we get this help or these projects come to make changes and they don't respect the people's foundations. It's important to know that we have our Causaxacha, our living forest. Every people has its existence or connection to nature, its own connection to the people or the forest. And this must be respected. I think this is what's most important to know, that we need to train youth. And I've seen that one of the tools we need is learning other languages like English or French so that we can express ourselves, because this has been a barrier to explain what we want. Thank you so much, Samai. And finally, Karina. Karina, what could you tell us? In the Amazon region in Ecuador, from my experience as a monitor, I've seen different conflicts in the Amazon region. There's been pollution, deforestation, logging, and it's very important to train more monitors. We also need to provide access to education to youth. And we also need to train them on using and handling technology tools, because this allows us to generate more information on the indigenous territories of our different nationalities. This will provide potentiality and it'll help address the challenges our communities face. We also need mentors or role models This can be very helpful for us as youth because they provide guidance, inspiration, and examples which could make a difference. For example, I've seen a woman who is an inspiration to me. So that's why I keep fighting to defend and preserve our territories and our forests in my organization in this case. But we need more youth, and some youth are getting involved in defending our territories. But we also need education and training in the use of technology tools. We also need resources for youth like technology, grants, scholarships. We also need to know the potential of youth and to endorse them to provide or to make a positive impact on our communities. It's also very important to foster active participation of youth in decision making in our communities. This gives us a voice and an influence on the issues affecting our territories. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your experience and your standpoint. It was very important to learn more about your work, challenges, and the potential solutions to involve the youth. Now we have some time for questions from the audience to our speakers. So if you'll allow me just one moment. This is a question and you'll tell me who would like to answer. The question is, how do you incorporate indigenous knowledge into policies and plans for sustainable forest development and preservation?
¿Alguien quisiera compartir más o menos su punto de vista? ¿O quieren que un poquito de tiempo?
Somebody would like to answer, or do you need more time?
A ver, voy a copiar la pregunta.
So I will copy this question meanwhile.
¿Cómo se incorporan? ¿Perdón?
No,
I'm
iba
sorry.
a responderte.
I want to answer the question. Yes.
Bueno, para nada más asegurarme que es la
Just to
pregunta.
make sure what the
estoy
question is,
entendiendo bien.
and if I'm understanding correctly,
¿Cómo se incorporan los conocimientos?
how no indigenous knowledge is incorporated for sustainable forest management, right? Yes.
Podría responder esto como en 5
So
puntos.
I
El
may
primer punto podría
talk
ser
about
la
5 points. The first
participación
one would
activa de
be
las
active participation of indigenous communities.
considero que es muy fundamental
I
involucrarnos a
really
nosotros
say
como
it is essential to get involved as indigenous communities when developing policies and plans, because this means we are able to understand what is happening in the communities, to cooperate with leaders, in order to understand knowledge that we have, traditional knowledge, and our own concerns. Number 2 would be recognizing, and this would be one of the most important, recognizing traditional knowledge or wisdom. This is a lot for us to value and to respect our wisdom, and specifically what's happening in the community. Personally, coming from the coast and being an indigenous person, talking about the Halover community, for example, we need to understand how to develop technology for the community. Then integrating these sustainable practices, our knowledge, how are we able to incorporate that in our policies and plans through the integration of sustainable practices and elder people, and how this may be included in different techniques. For example, collective harvest, fishing, in our case, because we are in the coast, protecting species. Then number 4 would be respect for the land. And 5, training and cooperation. This has been mentioned a lot by the rest that are giving us training to face solutions to different issues we have. I want to talk to have another question, and the question is, how are we able to harmonize surveillance and monitoring indigenous systems with science Western tools? I will repeat the question now. How are we able to harmonize surveillance and monitoring and monitoring indigenous systems with Western tools?
O quizás ya lo están haciendo y no sé si nos podrían compartir algún ejemplo.
Maybe are you able to share an example of how have you done this, if you have done this by using drones, for example? In this sense, I guess we're able to say indigenous people do that already. We are monitoring everything, and in Sarayaku, we use, well, an example would be Global Forest Watch. As Mireya explained before, we have the chakra, the yusum and purum. A chakra is when you have 1 hectare for crop, then you re-crop with this the ushu, the second stage, and third stage is the purum that is growing again. So it's regenerating from 10 to 15 years, so another family is able to have another chakra. So Global Forest Watch is not able to see a deforestation because we don't see that like that. We don't have deforestation in Sarayaku. So Global Forest Watch is able to help us to detect a chakra, but then we work with this, and then we have been using drones and technology, making us to have a land monitored, and this is helping us to show in any part of our work that we have something, we are defending something for any work that we are able to carry out. And in Sarayaku, in 2002 or 2003, we saw our rights violated because an oil company came in. So we have a lawsuit that we won after 12 years, and this was very helpful to see, the technology was very helpful to see that our rights were violated. Also, we want to use technology in a proper way in order to be able to show our rights or defend our rights when it's needed. Thank you, Samai. And I think we still have time for a last question. All questions are open for everybody. What are the recommendations to monitor forests and protected lands? What are the lessons learned and good practices that you're able to share? I'll go again. What are the recommendations for monitoring forests and protected lands? What are the lessons learned and good practices that you're able to share? And this would be a short answer, please. I may answer, but not specifically about forests, but protecting community and mangroves in this case. And actually, I was writing something for the chat, but the quick answer would be an app that would be developed together with experts and get involved community to contribute with more proposals and to have more solutions or things that we are able to do and include development and to continue improving. And in the chat, I will send more so you're able to read that. Thank you, Roxy. We have lots of questions by the audience. We don't have time to go through each one of them, but we want to share them with the speakers and they may contact you to get this answer. So I would like to pass the floor to Mario so we are able to close the seminar with some final words. Thank you very much to all speakers. The youngsters are having a very important role in the works that you have been doing at the regional level, local level, and Karina is one of the monitors that has been working at the region Amazonian level and representing the community and also the rest that are from Sarayaku, and they are using new tools that later on we will be having a regional training, and hopefully we will have enough support to continue supporting these youngsters that are really committed in new technologies and they want to learn. The young people are very committed to know new technologies, and this because they know that this is helpful for protecting our resources, our land. And I think this is a very amazing space to gather us and keep us on defending our planet, and also to have different allies and friends to protect these initiatives. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mario, and thank you for your words. And with this, we close this web seminar. And in this next slide, we have all contacts from all speakers and Mario. And this is the information you may have. This is the email. You may follow their work, and in the following days, we will share the recording and the slides. For today, unfortunately, we are not able to share the chat because we can't. And before anything else, please fill out the survey once this web seminar ends. We would love to hear your comments and all the topics you would like to hear in a future seminar, for example, data ethics, governance of forests, data and technology for forest monitoring, and any other topic you may be interested in. Also, it's very useful to have your data so we are able to keep committed with Global Forest Watch. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for your time and for participating here. Thank you.